So I just want to say welcome everyone to this CSP Getting Ready for the Workplace webinar, and we're so glad that you could join us this evening, whether that's live or watching the recording afterwards. I hope you get a lot of information out of today. And just some housekeeping, if everyone could keep your microphones muted, but there is a Q&A function, so you can use that to ask any questions at any time during the talk, but we'll answer these towards the end in the last 20 minutes or so of the event. And we've also got a quick poll, which I'm going to put up for just 1 second. Pause. Just to get an idea of who's in the room with us this evening. Just 2 questions there, if you want to answer those. And while that's happening, if we could do, if the panel members could introduce themselves, and just let us know your name and your role. So I'm going to hand over to the wonderful Sylvia to start with.
Hi everyone, my name's Sylvia and I am the current chair of the CSP Council, and in my day job I'm a Chief Allied Health Professional.
Thank
Lovely
you.
to see you all.
Thanks so much, Sylvia. And Hattie?
Evening, everybody. My name is Hattie and my job title is Strategic Communications Manager at the CSP. What that means in practice is that I lead on our comms and campaigning functions around workforce and staffing and supply, all the activity that the CSP does.
Thanks so much, Hattie. And Mehdi?
Thanks, Fiona. Hi, everyone. My name is Mehdi. I'm the Equalities Officer for the CSP, and I'm responsible for growing and developing our network of CSP equality reps across the UK.
Awesome, thank you. I'm not sure if Simran is here. If you are, please put your hand up or open your mic, but I'll hand over to Terry, who I know is here. I'm not sure.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, there you go.
So I'm Terry. I'm a recently graduated physiotherapist from the University of Essex.
Thanks so much, Terry. And Nell, I'm not sure if you are in the room. Yes, I know.
Hello, hope you can
Hey,
hear
Nell,
me.
great that you're here.
I had a few tech problems, sorry. Yeah, my name's Nell. I am a Band 5 rotational physio. I graduated last year and I also became a CSP rep at the same time. So yeah, I've been a workplace rep for a year now as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nell. And I'm Iona. I'm a CSP student officer, but I'm also in my final year studying at Southampton University as well. So in the same boat as a lot of you here. And I just want to go to the poll results. So as you can see, most of us are also in our final year of studies. We've also got about 25% who've just graduated, and the majority are looking for roles within the NHS or private sector at the moment as well. So thanks so much, guys. That's really helps us understand where everyone's coming from tonight.
Yeah, once I do that quick slide, then I can just reach out to someone.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Oh,
Okay, I've just put everybody on mute.
okay, thank you. Thanks so much, Hattie. So thanks everyone, and now I'm going to hand over to Sylvia to kick us off.
Thank you. So a little bit about me, first of all. Iona wanted me to just talk about my career, really. So physio was my second career. I went to physio college or university in Birmingham as a mature student, and found it quite challenging after having been out of education. And also my first career, education wasn't really a key thing, because I was actually a dancer. So I felt it was all a bit of a struggle, but I managed to somehow qualify as a physio. And when I qualified, it was, although perhaps not as challenging as it is currently, it was certainly one of the years that was highlighted as a very competitive market out there. And you know, I did have to go through quite a few job interviews before I actually landed anything. And then when I did find a job and qualified, I also became a health and safety rep for the CSP. And that sort of really helped open my eyes up to what was possible, and the support and the networking possibilities that came from the CSP. And so throughout my career, although I haven't remained as a health and safety rep or steward in an active role, I've always touched base with the CSP on a fairly regular basis, whether it's we were one of the first FCP services in the country. So again, and then we developed a sort of a training program before the roadmap to practice came out. So again, I shared that with the CSP. And we also, during COVID, designed a really innovative student placement model that was blended between primary and secondary care to sort of show the breadth of where physiotherapy opportunities lie. And also then allowed, as we developed that program, we were able to sort of also demonstrate that students can work across multiple organizations, which was really great. So I've always sort of been very grateful to the CSP. And then back in 2022, I had my arm twisted by a then council member to maybe stand for council. And rather surprisingly, I got elected. And I think some of that was what I'll talk to later, but it was really my networking that I was able to have through the CSP and through some other sort of networks that I was part of. And that sort of gave me, I suppose, more of that reach for people. And then last year, I put myself forward to stand as chair and got elected. So that was really exciting. And I'm really, really enjoying all the sort of the opportunities that that brings. So next slide, please. So starting your journey, I think the main thing to sort of recognize is that the CSP has a whole wealth of opportunities and support there for you. And it is, as I've said often to other people before, is that it's almost like the more you put in, the more you get back out. And I can see Nell nodding her head there. And so, you know, it's one of those things, you can just be a member and pay your subs and do nothing else. But actually, if you take the opportunity to either to go along to regional events or to attend sort of webinars such as this, go to events like Physio UK, there's an awful lot of connections that you can make, and that starts to open doors for you. So I think it's as much as about this huge resource that is out there. And I think having the ability to know that there's lots of other people similar to yourselves, but also to make connections with people who perhaps you might not necessarily come across, it really helps to boost your confidence. So next slide, please. So from a practical tips point of view, from my point of view, I would say really just be curious. I still reach out to all sorts of people via email who I don't have a connection with. And I just go, I'm really interested about how you got to where you've got to. I was reading something on LinkedIn or something like that. And could I have a conversation just to understand? And very rarely has anyone ignored me or not come back to me. And that's been at multiple stages of my career, because I think people like to talk about themselves. So I think, you know, just reach out, and you don't know where those connections might lead. And in fact, back in 2018, I knocked on an exec's door and sort of said, how do I get into the integrated care system sort of space? And 2 weeks later, she rang me up and sort of said, I've got an opening. Would you be interested? So if I hadn't have made that connection, you know, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. So I think just be nosy, be curious, and reach out. The other thing is that for those of you that might not be aware, but the CSP have a mentoring service. And again, I think just there's many people like myself who are on that mentoring platform. You can reach out and we can support you and have conversations. So again, I think that's a really good opportunity, and you may find somebody that's local to your area, or you might want to choose somebody that's in a completely different part of the country but can sort of talk to you about maybe interview prep. I've certainly done some of those type of coaching events in the past. If you are getting interviews, just make sure you research your role, the team, particularly if the organization has any values or sort of strategic aims. That's often a good one. They usually also ask something around sort of equality. So again, just have a look at what is their organizational and values, because they're often the questions that you can tell who's done the prep and who hasn't when it comes to interview. But don't get obsessed if you are looking for jobs and you're going for interviews. If you're getting shortlisted, that in itself shows that you're good enough to do the job. So that in itself, take that as a win. And, again, just use some of these, events like this to sort of reflect and think about what have you learned from it. So, do use sort of tools out there, but don't be obsessive. You need to have a life outside of job hunting and trying to find your ideal as well. But yeah, definitely try and use a lot of free resources that are out there. So the next slide. So Iona's going to, and others I'm sure are going to talk about this much more in detail, but the CSP really offers a lot of professional development. You've got things like your CPD diaries, you've got courses, webinars, loads of resources. So it's really important to sort of use those, because they can be really helpful. And I still regularly will go into the website and sort of think, oh, I need something about this. Sometimes a little tip, if you don't know, if you can't find it on the website itself, just to use the Google search button, CSP website, info on such and such. Sometimes I struggle with finding things, but that's a good way of getting to that information. Networking, I can't stress enough how valuable networking is for sort of reaching out and building your sort of network of people that you can connect with. So there's regional events, as I've already said, there's professional networks, there's diversity networks. We've also got sort of other networks that exist out there. So I co-chair the Southeast Allied Health Professionals in Quality Improvement. There's digital networks again, which I'm involved with. So there's lots of things. So anything that is of interest to you, just reach out and join. They're open to everyone, and people really value student voices coming in, because you often are able to sort of be more up to date with the research and what's going on. So don't feel ever intimidated by joining a network. And obviously the CSP can provide you with lots of advice and guidance, like through events such as this. You'll also get to learn about what we're doing to advocate and represent all of the physiotherapy members. And it helps also to sort of inform you with what's happening in the sort of current healthcare. Next slide. So really, I think it's just about building your confidence. Think about what your strengths are. So almost do a SWOT analysis on yourself and sort of think about that when you're sort of applying for any jobs. Being able to sort of see anything that is perhaps a weakness as an opportunity. So how can you turn that into an opportunity? What can you do to sort of strengthen that, whether it be through networks? Do utilize your resources and think about, if something comes up that is maybe just a half a day a week or 1 day a week, do consider things like that, because nowadays a lot of people have quite sort of what is called portfolio careers. So you might want to do a variety of different things or juggle multiple roles, like Iona's trying to do at the moment. So don't sort of necessarily turn down those opportunities. And use your peers, use the networks like this, and I'm sure you have lots of student networks that you can reach into. They're really, really important to support you and help you sort of grow together, really. I think it's coming up to my last slide. So yeah, so just to sort of summarize, is just that the CSP does offer you lots of support through the transition from being a student to a graduate and being sort of, hopefully a very successful physio going throughout your career, wherever that may lead you. And there are, not only opportunities in the NHS, in the private sector, independent sector, you've got hospices, voluntary services, and you've got also sports and exercise. So there are a whole wealth of opportunities out there. So don't necessarily just go to think about just the standard places to apply for. And in the interest of time, I will probably stop there. Thank you, Iona.
Thanks so much, Sylvia, and thanks. I think you gave some fantastic tips, especially I just want to echo what you said about contacting other physios, like get a LinkedIn, connect with people. I remember when I started off, I think I emailed about 12 physios asking if I could have a chat with them, and all 12 said yes. And I was really shocked. So yeah, people are out there, they want to help, get in touch with them and start those connections. So thanks so much. I just want to also say congratulations to everyone who has graduated and is joining us. You've made that first step on your career journey there. And we've just created this bit of a checklist. This is for people who've graduated, but it's also really useful if you're in your final year of kind of the different things that you can do once graduated. So you might want to take a screenshot or a photo of this. But we will also be sharing a recording after and a lot of this information as well. But we're going to be going through this in a bit more depth as we go through the webinar. So the first thing is HCPC registration. So the HCPC is the Healthcare Professions Council, which you've probably heard of during your studies as well, and they regulate healthcare professions across the UK. And to claim your professional title and practice as a physiotherapist, you need to register with them. And their primary role is protecting the public, and they do that by setting certain standards in relation to education. So you might come from an HCPC approved course, for example. And it basically also takes people to hand. So if you're on the register and you don't meet these standards, you might be investigated by the HCPC, but hopefully that won't happen. But if it does happen, then the CSP can support you through that process. We have a whole team of people within the CSP who can do that, and we'll talk about that a bit later on as well. And if you don't have a job role quite yet and you're not sure whether you should delay applying, just make sure that you do apply within 10 working days of your first role. So the application process takes 10 days, and you'll need to be HCPC registered to take up your first physio role. They do actually have a discount at the moment. So it's 50% off your first 2 years. So that's £123 for 2 years or £61 per year as well. So that helps a little bit as well. And you will need to renew your HCPC registration every 2 years. And at each renewal, they'll require you to pay a fee at that renewal. And also you might be randomly selected to demonstrate your competency. They audit a small number of registrants every year. And as part of that, you need to submit a portfolio, kind of tracking your CPD and showing that you're continuing your learning. And we have a great resource at the CSP for that. That's the e-portfolio. And you might have used that as a student, and we'll talk a bit more about that later, but it's basically where you can track and keep up to date with all your learning and CPD throughout your career, as well as when you're a student. And the next stage is to get chartered. And this enables you to use the letters MCSP after your name. And it's kind of like a badge of excellence that many employers prefer. You might have already noticed on some applications, it says they prefer CSP chartered membership to apply. And it also really demonstrates that you're part of this wide professional community and committed to these standards of practice. And if you're not as familiar with the CSP, we are the only physiotherapy specific professional body, educational body and trade union within the UK. And it's a very large community. We have over 65,000 members, and 80% of those are chartered. And having such a large membership gives us a real influential voice within physiotherapy practice and education at local and national levels. And we are member-led as well. So a lot of our campaign work comes from issues that have been raised by our members. So this can include things around pay, negotiating for pay. You might have magazine, also we had some work on therapy spaces. There was a lot of loss of therapy spaces during lockdown, and the CSP's lobbied on behalf of members for that as well. So looking for work might be something you're either thinking about for when you finish your final year, or that you're currently looking for work at the moment. And we know that it's tough for new graduates looking for band 5 roles right now. And in just a moment, Hattie's going to be speaking about what the work the CSP is doing to support this. But we do have options to find job opportunities, including browsing job boards to view the jobs that are available at the moment. And there's some links included there. And if you're a CSP member, we also feature jobs in Frontline magazine and in our email bulletins as well. So there's lots of different ways that you can look for work and keep up to date. It's also really worth signing up to the email bulletins so you get alerted straight away when jobs are available. But I'm just going to hand over to Hattie. He's going to talk a little bit about what the CSP are doing in relation to the recruitment freezes.
Thanks, Iona. So like Iona said, it feels a bit like an elephant in the room here today. We know it's tough out there in the job market right now. NHS financial pressures are driving recruitment freezes at trusts and boards in other places in the UK as they try and balance their budget. And we know that that's directly impacting frontline physio services. So 1 in 5 of our members have said that the clinical recruitment is at least partially paused in their NHS organisation, and 10%, 1 in 10 are reporting a total freeze on clinical recruitment. And we know that that's particularly affecting band 5 roles. And I think it's really important, what I want to communicate to you all today is that that's not happening because physiotherapy isn't needed. The number of physio graduates has grown and increased in line with the rising patient need. We know that 2 in 3 people will live with more than one long-term health condition by 2030. But workforce planning and recruitment funding have just not kept pace with that patient need. Physio services have been chronically understaffed for decades. We've got far fewer physios to population than in Australia or Denmark and other comparable countries. And also, you can see we're streeting here. The national focus is on prevention, rehabilitation, and enabling people to work, and expanding community services. So the CSP is working really hard to communicate to national government and local decision makers that the NHS needs every single physio that it can get. We are arguing that every physio graduate who wants an NHS job should be guaranteed one, and that making the case that the recruitment freezes really are a false economy, and that leaving people like you right now unemployed risks long-term workforce shortages, which will only harm patients at the end of the day. So what we are doing, if we go to slide 2, Iona, you can see on that previous slide that we are raising the alarm, we're sounding the alarm with ministers, with MPs, with civil servants, and utilising the media. And in England, we've been lobbying the Department of Health and Social Care and NHS England. They've asked us specifically for briefings. It feels like we are making some leeway, but obviously those conversations can be tricky and slow. We are making the case for a graduate scheme for physiotherapy. In the autumn, we're going to be attending all of the main party conferences, including Labour Party conference, and we're going to have a stand and an event to talk to those decision makers about the value of physio to delivering their very own agenda. And we're working in the devolved nations as well. So we're working in Scotland and Northern Ireland in particular, because this doesn't seem to be as much of an issue in Wales, but we're working similarly with the political parties there. And I just wanted also to say that this isn't unique to physio. So in June, we did a joint letter to the Health Minister in England with the British Medical Association and the Royal Colleges of Nurses and Midwives. And this month, we've worked with AHP professional bodies to pull together the evidence of the problem as well, and raising through national AHP leadership. The CSP is also the co-chair of the Community Rehabilitation Alliance, which is a group of 65 third sector organisations and professional bodies. And we're working with our charity partners there to raise this through with their political contacts too. So we are doing everything we can. And at the end of this presentation, I'm going to pop back on to share with you what you could do to raise this, because your voices, we have 200 150 members of staff at the CSP, we have 65,000 members. So if your voices are incredibly powerful in this space, so we would, I will share with you how the CSP is facilitating you to use your voice. And just on to the next slide. Some of you may have seen the government action to address recruitment freezes for newly qualified nurses and midwives, and frustratingly not physios. And we are having urgent conversations with the government about this, but we're actually not calling necessarily for an expansion of that scheme to physios. We're calling for a bespoke and unique scheme for physiotherapy graduates to address recruitment concerns, so that you guys can secure the employment that you so desperately want and need, and that patients can feel the benefit that we know that you guys can bring to the system, and that the whole country will benefit. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Hattie. Really appreciate that. We know it's a really difficult topic, and I'm sure you have lots of questions about it, so feel free to put them in the chat that we can come to later as well. So I just wanted to quickly mention that if you are looking for an NHS role, but as Sylvia said, there are lots of other roles out there. We have some really great resources on the CSP website to help you understand your contract and ensure that you're protected within that. So definitely recommend having a look at that. And also it has about the terms and conditions. And I just wanted to mention that the CSP were really integral to negotiating these as part of the agenda for change, and getting a favourable outcome for our members, and that's why it's really important to be part of a union such as the CSP. And those also include things such as on-call payments and sick pay, maternity leave, all these things that we might take for granted and don't realise how important it is to have that within your contract and to really check that. So I'd really advise you to look at those resources on the website as well. So we also had quite a few questions in advance about, so how do you accelerate your career, like once you get into a job? So we have some great resources that are available to you both as a student member, so if you're in your final year, and when you start in your first roles within the NHS or private practice. So one thing I can really recommend is our Discovery Library and range of CPD resources. One of the pre-questions we had was actually like, how do I stay up to date if, you know, I've finished university and don't have access anymore to all the journals and up-to-date literature? Well, the CSP library has got you covered. It's a physiotherapy specific journal, and if you remember, you get free access to all of those journals. It's actually a lot better than my university one where you have to log in every time. Once you're logged in by the CSP website, it automatically logs into all the other journals, which is fantastic. We also have lots of CPD courses, which are free on our website that can help you stay up to date as well. So lots of ways for you to stay current and stay up to date, which is also part of your HCPC registration as well. So as well, we have other resources such as the monthly Frontline magazine. This is free, delivered to your door, or you can get a digital version as well. And this is full of loads of great information, from member stories to innovations and using the CSP to again keep you ahead of the curve on developments within physiotherapy. We've also got the Physiotherapy Journal, which also, if you're in your final year and you're interested in research, you can come along and present your final year research at our student conference. This year it's in November, and next year in 2026 it could be you up on that stage, and that also means you'll get published in the Physiotherapy Journal, which is fantastic as well. And every Thursday we have email bulletins that go out, and that'll help you stay up to date as well with everything in the profession. And they also have job alerts within that as well. So I'd really recommend making sure that you're signed up to those within your profile or on the CSP website. And I mentioned the portfolio before and the value of it. So not just when you're a student, but also when you're qualified. This is a really great place to keep track of all your reflections and CPD. It's got a variety of different templates that you can use as well, whatever you find works best for you. And it's a really good habit to get into if you haven't already started. Like I'm guilty of this. I did not start early, so it's been a bit of a struggle getting into it, but the ePortfolio is a great place to kind of get into that habit so that if you ever do get HCPC audited, it's already there, and that takes a lot of the pressure and stress out of that situation. So I'd really recommend giving that a try as well. And I'm just going to hand over to Terry now to speak about our member networks. Is that right, Terry?
That's great. Thank you very much, Ariana. So welcome everyone. Just to give you a bit of background on myself, I'm a mature student. I've just graduated university, so I'm hoping I can give you a bit of life experience as well as professional guidance here. So we're moving on to member networks. This is a great space that I like within the CSP. EDI is a really hot topic at the moment. So equality, diversity, and inclusion. There've been various roles created in the last 2 to 3 years on, in NHS services as well as other places. But it's basically a question: how are they going to measure the success of those roles? And I don't think it's going to be related to patient experience or numbers and how many people we can get through the door. It'll be very much on workplace satisfaction and surveys. So using these networks is going to be and promoting those ways of supporting each other. It's going to be a really good way of doing that. It's a good way to grow the amount of colleagues you have in your team. I know a lot of clinic spaces have maybe one physio, but it's part of a bigger team of nurses or OTs. So it's good to be able to have that in your professional networks. You can ask questions, you can get advice where you need to. My personal experience, been a member of the Disability Network for about 3 years. And it's really, really useful. I never found, because obviously no one's really going and speaking about these things out in the open. I think I did 6 placements, I did 2 workplaces and other various days, and no one says, oh, I have the same disability as you, hello. And it's good. I think I met one person that I could really relate to in person that whole time. So it's good to be able to do these sort of things online and get the advice and the support you need. So there's 13 regional and CSP national networks, but also there's the diversity networks. So you've got the Black, Asian and minority ethnic network, who identify as belonging to one or more of these network groups. The diversity networks aim to engage and support existing members, challenging factors that limit opportunities and create positive change within the profession. In addition to the regional networks, there are also professional networks, so you can share advice about either pediatrics or, for example, MSK. Do we go to the next slide?
Is that shown for you, Terry? Or is it?
Yeah, I've got that there.
Oh.
So while the CSP does a lot of work for physiotherapy as a whole, we also provide tailored support and advice on an individual basis. This is really valued by our members. The inquiries team is the first port of contact for all CSP inquiries. You can contact the inquiries team by phone, email, post. No question is too big or too small. I've had several friends say that they can confirm that this is true. Sometimes a query could be passed on to a professional member, but it'll always be answered. The CSP union services are available by phone during the working hours of Monday to Friday, and staff work closely with your local steward or rep, who are there to offer any advice, helping with your job, working conditions, or the physio service at risk. So my experience with this is I had a very supportive manager when I was starting my university career, and he would often encourage me, if things were getting tough and I was getting stressed about everything, he would encourage me to say, Terry, look, we want you as a qualified physio. We'd love to have you back once you are a physio. So if there's a push to shove of university versus calling in sick here, please call in sick here and look after yourself. Really supportive. Of course, the manager changed towards the end of my degree, and the next manager was not so supportive, which obviously I couldn't hold against them, but it was difficult. I found myself in sort of meetings, very serious meetings, to try and manage my performance and also my attendance. So that's when I looked at using a union. I think it was Unite through the NHS, and they didn't really have any idea of my specific challenges. It was very much aimed at just workplace problems, probably based on like sort of the more sort of cleaning aspects and catering aspects of the NHS. So it's good to know that CSP will know exactly your role and exactly what advice will work for you. Next is going on to insurance. I'll hand back over to Ione.
Thanks so much, Terry. And yeah, thanks so much for mentioning about all the expert advice and support. So this is really vital when you move into your first post, and hopefully you don't have any problems, but we are there for you if you do. And we're available, as Terry said, by email or phone. And I had a great experience myself when I had an issue. And it was interesting. I had an experience of calling another union who weren't as helpful in previously, but with the CSP, there's like a real human who will answer the phone and they will get you the help you need straight away, which I think in these days of chatbots and AI, I think it's really valuable to have that real human in-person and empathetic support as well. And so that is one of the main reasons to join a professional trade body and union, is that we're there to support you when things do go wrong, but also in the good times as well. But all our members benefit from CSP support to challenge unfair terms and conditions or discrimination at work. And I just want to pass on to Mehdi, I think is the next slide. So I'm having a bit of technical trouble. Oh, no, not yet. So yeah, this is just an example of some of the work that CSP has done. You might have heard a couple of years ago, physiotherapists actually went on strike for the first time, and the CSP was heavily involved in this. And these are some of our members actually out on strike. And the power of the union is in that collective power together to make change and have an influence on how our profession is run. And so now we'll talk a bit about this later, but there are several positions that you can go for once you qualify, including stewards and safety reps. And they kind of look after you in the workplace. There should be one per area of employment, and you can go to them with any queries, and they can direct you to support and advice, such as from the CSP that Terry mentioned before. But also, if you want to step up to one of these roles, if you don't have a rep in your area, for example, we'd really encourage you to look into that. It can be a great benefit. You get training from the CSP to do that, and it can really help you accelerate your career as well. So I'm just going to hand over to Mehdi to talk about the CSP Equality Reps, which launched this year.
Cheers, thank you very much, Iona. So I'm here to talk about the Equality Rep Network. So what I'll do is I'll give you a bit of background to the network and history as to how this has come to be at the CSP. Then I'll talk a bit about some of the work that our Equality Reps have done, both kind of generally, but also more in reality, some concrete examples of change that they've managed to achieve in the workplace. I'll touch briefly on how we support reps as well, and then I'll take any questions either now, but probably at the very end. So in terms of the rep network itself, as Iona said, the permanent rep network launched this year. The CSP had a pilot of equality reps, which started all the way back in 2021, and it lasted for a couple of years. Then it was extended. And at the end of that 4-year period, the CSP undertook a review of the work of equality reps across the UK. And as part of that pilot, it's important to say, we had reps from all regions and countries of the UK. Once that pilot was finished, the CSP did a review of the work and actually decided that due to the high level of impact the reps had, they would make the network permanent. And it was made permanent as of May this year. And the CSP is now actively recruiting equality reps across the UK. And in a nutshell, equality reps work with a steward and safety rep to raise awareness and organise around equity, diversity, and belonging in the workplace. Our equality reps are there to make workplaces more inclusive and improve the care that are provided to patients. And they also engage staff in local decisions and empower them to talk up when something isn't right. So you might be wondering, what does this actually look like? What do equality reps actually do on a day-to-day basis? So one of the major roles of the rep is to provide advice related to equity, diversity, and belonging at work. And our equality reps are engaged in a really wide variety of work across the UK. But what that tends to look like is working to improve trust board and employer policies and procedures, and that can either be policies that have a direct equality impact, so things like flexible working, reasonable adjustments, but our equality reps are also involved in assessing the equality's impact of any other policy or procedural change that your employer would like to put through. Our equality reps also support members who are facing discrimination in the workplace and work very closely with stewards to advise on cases where there could be discrimination. Our equality reps also design and deliver training, and this is over a broad spectrum of things, really, but the kind of most common things are in-service training for treating patients from diverse backgrounds, cultural competence, and upskilling colleagues' confidence in actually being able to use some of the support services and procedures that the NHS would like to put in place. A lot of our equality reps are also involved in things like staff side and negotiations. And what that means is that they will negotiate with the management of employers just to ensure that equality issues and equity, diversity, and belonging are really at the heart of everything that the employer does. One thing that equality reps don't do is they don't do direct casework. So if you are a member that has a case, it will be a steward that will represent you. But where there is an equalities impact to that case, an equality rep will be there to advise the steward on how to best handle that. So that potentially can sound a bit vague, and you might be thinking, well, what does that actually look like in reality? It's really difficult to summarize just the level of work that the equality reps have done, but some examples that I can give you is working across their NHS trust to completely transform their recruitment and promotion processes, to make things more inclusive and to actually improve the transparency of those processes to members. Our reps have been involved in creating programs and resources for internationally recruited physiotherapists and pushing NHS employers to really improve the induction for internationally recruited physios in the UK. A lot of our reps are involved in creating newsletters and communications about equity issues in the workplace, and also they play a really key part in terms of actually engaging members to find out what the issues are. So in terms of how we support our equality reps, there's basically three main forms of support. One is the in-person training that we offer twice a year for all of our new equality reps, and that is training which is particularly on equality issues as they would impact you as a physio or as a physio rep. We also have the equality rep network itself, which is comprised of reps from all the way across the UK, and often peer support is a really good way to find out how to organise around issues. And you also will have access to contact CSP staff in your region. So your region will have a negotiating officer and a organizer, which Iona will probably touch on as well. And you also have access to myself as the equalities officer as well. And I'll stop there.
Thanks so much, Mehdi. And again, if you need to get in contact with Mehdi or about anything about discrimination, get in touch with us at inquiries@csp.org.uk. Also, if you're a student on placement and experience discrimination or bullying or harassment, we've got a new officer, Jess, who's our student support officer, and she can also provide support in that area. So although we're not a union in that aspect while you're a student, we can still offer that support during your studies as well. So just going on, I'll go very quickly over the last few slides because I want to make sure we've got plenty of time for questions. But talking about insurance, it's not the most exciting subject, but it is really important. And as a CSP member, if you're chartered or associate, you automatically get public liability insurance up to £10 million and also medical malpractice insurance. If you were to try and this does include NHS and private settings as well. And if you were going to pay for this separately, it would cost more than your whole CSP membership for the year. So it's definitely a really valuable benefit as well. And just also to mention, we've mentioned the HCPC quite a few times today, but this was something that kind of freaked me out when I found out about it as a student, that the HCPC isn't there to protect us as practitioners. It's all about the patients. So if you ever did get a complaint against you and you needed to go and attend an investigation, the CSP can provide that legal representation. It's not essential to have legal representation, but if you're going to do that yourself, it could cost £2,000 or more, and you get that included as part of your membership as well. So that's a really valuable benefit. So I know a lot of people here, about 25% are just about to graduate or have just graduated. And we just want to mention that if you are currently a CSP student member, you get 12 months free of graduate membership, which is really vital, especially if it is taking a while to get your first job, because this means you can keep up to date with the profession and access lots of the CPD and library benefits, for example. And so this is free if you're a student member at the moment. If you're not a student member, don't worry, you can sign up until the 31st of August and still get 12 months free. So if you're on the call, you're not currently a member and you want to access all this support, definitely it's worth signing up for £2.96 a month. I'll put a link in the chat in a minute with that. And then once you're chartered, so once you get your first job, it costs £37.99 a month. And that comes with all the insurance and added benefits. But you do get 3 months free when you start, and that's worth over £110 as well. Also, if you're a student member, you'll get access to our graduate hub. And this has got loads of great tips and advice for getting your first job. It's got interview help as well, and lots of support as you make that transition into the workplace. And you'll also get a free copy delivered of our graduate handbook as well. So I'm just going to hand over a sneak peek, very exciting, to Hattie as well.
Thank you, Iona. And yeah, this is hot off the press. The creative team finished this design today, so you are the first people to ever see it. On the 1st of September, we are launching a graduate support package, which is going to be hosted on the CSP's virtual learning environment. So it will be quite similar to the VLE that quite a lot of you might have used at uni. It launches on the 1st of September. We will email those of you who've said on this webinar that we can contact you afterwards. We'll send you an email link when it launches. We're hosting some webinars to further the conversation that's happened here, talking about career development and different ways that you can develop a physiotherapy career. And there's also going to be lots of information there, reading resources, and some peer support that will be facilitated through this space as well. So you can touch base with other people who are graduating and seeking to take their first steps as a physiotherapist. So do watch out for it. I'm quite excited about it. Our professional advisors have worked really hard on it, and hopefully it will prove to be a really valuable resource for people who have just finished their studies. And then on the next slide, I spoke about what we are asking our students to do. We're seeing some real success in Parliament with parliamentarians paying attention to the concerns that we have around graduate level recruitment at the moment within physiotherapy. And there is a template letter on the CSP website. Again, it's found at that on the graduate hub. You can download it and you can send it to your MP, or even better, you could write your own letter from scratch to your MP talking about what concerns you have, or you could go to one of their surgeries. We then are finding that MPs are then having conversations with health ministers, which is leading to interest and potential movement. So we really are encouraging people to do that. If you need any support at all, there's an email address to our local campaigning teams on the page where you'll find the template letter, and they can give you a hand or some support. So please do consider doing that. And like I said, there's support there if you would like it.
Thanks so much, Hattie. So just some final bits of advice, just some takeaways is definitely, as Sylvia mentioned, find a mentor. If you're lucky enough to be mentored with Sylvia, that would be amazing. That would be my dream. And take every opportunity that comes your way. Physios are so keen to help one another, and you'll definitely learn something no matter what happens. And yeah, be an agent for change and speak up to get the most out of a profession, support one another. And I'll just leave the QR code up on the next slide to give you the methods to join. Remember, you need to join before the 31st of August to take advantage of that 12 months free graduate membership if you're not already a member. But I want to go to the Q&A because I don't want to lose out on any of these great questions that we've had. So I'm going to go straight into, I'm not sure who wants to answer this out of the panel, so feel free to put your hand up. But the first question we had was, what's involved in the process with OSCE style clinical-based scenarios that you have at job interviews? And what are the expectations of these, especially if you haven't had exposure to a clinical placement in that area while you're at university? So I don't know, Nell, would you have the most recent experience of doing OSCE style interviews?
I do, yes. I want to start by saying that I applied for a lot of jobs before I got mine. I did start my application process very early. I started in January, so a lot of the jobs sort of rejected me because they were looking for people who could start earlier. But it is really, really tough, and it has been tough for the past few years, so you're not alone. But just really keep an eye, because a lot of the jobs came back up a couple of months later. So just keep an eye on jobs that you might not have got through in the first round, but they will probably bring them up again. In terms of OSCEs, I did three for three different jobs. One of them, for the job that I've taken now, was probably the most intense, and there were 4 stations. And then you would have about 10 minutes on each station, and they were about your core physiotherapy skills. So everything that was in those OSCEs were things that I'd learned at uni or done on placement. So there was a respiratory one, which was about an X-ray. There was one about balance. There was one about teaching someone to use crutches. I can't remember the others, but it was that kind of, there was an MSK, like an OA knee. I would say the main thing you need to do is that if you've missed a core placement, like I didn't do a neuro placement, if you've missed that, look into that. Otherwise, your placement should have covered you for everything else. And just try and relax and remember that the people who are doing them are people like you. So I have just done the OSCEs for the new graduates this year. So they're not scary people. They're people who've only just gone through that process. And the main thing that they're looking for is safety. It's okay if you don't know, that's absolutely fine. I still don't know stuff all the time, but I know that I need to ask if I don't know, and that's basically what they're looking for.
Thanks so much, Nell. That's really reassuring. Sylvia, I know you have to leave in a minute.
Yeah, but I was just going to follow on from what Nell said. I think, yeah, definitely don't be afraid to ask. That trying to bluff your way through something when you don't know it almost looks worse than saying, I don't know that. It's not where I've had my experience, but I would know that I would go and ask so and so, or this is what I would do in that situation. But I think for me, where I've seen so many people trip up is that you panic that you've got to get across the complicated stuff, and so people forget sometimes to sort of especially if you're having to do a like an examination on somebody, to ask things like, is it okay if I do this? So to gain consent from a person, or do you understand, or that listening. So I think it's don't rush into complicated stuff. We're not trying to trip people up. And really remember the simple things about, as I say, asking a patient's consent, asking, does that feel okay? Do you understand? Those sorts of things.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. Do you have time for one quick question before you shoot off? Because
yes, yeah.
I thought it'd be perfect. We had a lot of questions asking how can they make their supporting statements stand out at interview, and what opportunities can we do as third years to kind of make ourselves stand out more?
So I think from standing out, I think bring in other life experiences. Don't just think about everything from a physio point of view. So if you've gone abroad to wherever in the world, just think about, you have an understanding maybe of a different health system, and that you recognize there are different approaches to things. I think there's definitely something around bringing in, whether you've been members of any sporting clubs or any sort of, if you've done things like Duke of Edinburgh. So just pull lots of different things in, and just take opportunities whilst you're sort of looking for jobs, to even just go and spend some time with other colleagues, or if you're joining a peer network, say that you're joining a peer network and this is what you've learned from it. You're coming along to webinars such as this, and you're now part of a student network. All of that sort of stuff does make you stand out.
Definitely, thank you so much. And I definitely second the professional networks. If there's something, an area that you know you're keen to work in, definitely join because you'll meet with all the people that are top in that field. They have special events on that you can attend, and it's those networks that can really help you when you're looking for those first roles as well.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now, oh, do you have to go, Sylvia?
Yeah, I was
Oh.
just going to say, I'm really sorry that I do have to leave you a little bit early, but we do have an event which I put in the chat. So just scroll up through the chat and then there's more opportunities to ask questions.
Yeah, that's a great session with Sylvia and John Cowan, our CEO, where you can come along and ask any questions as well. So definitely take that opportunity as well. So thank you so much, Sylvia. Really appreciate your attendance. And Nell, I think you had your hand up next.
Yeah, I just wanted to quickly add one more thing about all types of interviews, OSCEs or just like chatty based interviews. Practice speaking out loud before you go, because it's so easy to go in your head, oh, these are my strengths, and kind of think of a few bullet points, but articulating it is always the difficult bit. So speak out loud to yourself, speak out loud to people that you live with, practice doing that. And with OSCEs, one of the most difficult things is they will ask you to pretend that there's a patient and you're having to speak out loud to this patient who's not really a patient. Practice that as well, because it is awkward. And I think it really helps to know what you're going to say and know how to just speak out loud. And hopefully that will make it easier for you.
That is such a good tip. I heard of an interview recently where someone kept saying psychology instead of physiotherapy. So it's so easy to happen. And I think saying it out loud can really, really help. So thanks for that. Terry?
Yeah, I thought I'd share just a little bit of advice here. I am due to start my first physio job on Monday. So that's within a private practice. But yeah, I've been for many, many interviews. I'd never expected it to be this hard, of course. I think we're all in the same boat. But I found what I was doing lots of prep. I was, going through all the answers, what I wanted to get across from myself, so why I thought I was best for the job. And a lot of the questioning and the strict criterias they go through and scenarios I found quite distracting. And so I'd get home and I'd go, oh, I didn't get the chance to say this, I didn't get the chance to say that. And so yeah, what I did was I took my own notes, and I just would say, okay, do you mind if I just look at my notes, just so I've got right in my head what I'm doing. And I had just a summary at the end, just to kind of say, oh, when they say, have you got any questions, I say, well, yeah, I've got my questions. Or just after that, just a few things. Here's what I think are the best for the job. And I didn't manage to say these during the interview. Yeah, these people are people, they're humans. They're looking for the best person for the job, and all of the questioning and the structures, they're all prompts to help them. So yeah, there's not illegal to try and just say your own things. And yeah, for me, I found it quite successful.
Thanks so much, Terry. That's a really good point as well about the questions, because I've got ADHD and I think it's becoming more acceptable to request questions in advance, for example. And fingers crossed that can be supportive as well. We actually had, Terry, a lot of questions from people saying if they can't get NHS work, should they consider private? And I was wondering if you've got any advice on that for people.
I think from my own background, I've worked in sports massage before. I've worked in personal training and heavily in MSK settings as an assistant. So I'm quite comfortable working in a private practice. And I think it's just knowing that, yeah, your training won't be 100%. There are other places there that will have a really good training program and be able to support you. But if you're thinking, oh, I could maybe go without that support because I'm quite comfortable in my area, then yeah, I see no reason why you shouldn't be able to go straight to a private role. And then yeah, as we have through the CSP, use all of the CPD resources, use the networking to try and develop yourself that way instead.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Terry. We also had a question from someone, and this is something that was on my mind. It's still on my mind a lot. Does your degree classification affect your employability? So Don't know, Nell or Terry, were you even asked what your classification was at interview?
No, I hadn't actually got my degree when I was doing the interviews yet, so I didn't know what it was going to be. As long as you've passed, they're just looking for your actual person skills. They don't care if your dissertation didn't go so well because you're not great at writing. That's not what the job entails, so don't worry about that.
I'm very
Yeah.
relieved, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly the same for me. Not bothered. And I had a couple of other like placement supervisors, and they've not been in the industry that long. They've been put on like master's programs, and they've done a lot of more other things, and they've never been asked any scores of anything. So yeah, it's not something to stress over, and I'm glad I didn't in the end, and I had that person to give me that advice.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Terry. There was one question from the chat as well saying that for private, they're often asking for 2 to 3 years of experience or NHS experience. But did you find that there are jobs out there that aren't asking for that kind of prerequisite?
Yes, so I went for one role was actually advertised through my tutor to the whole cohort, and that was more of a development role. So they wanted someone who they were going to pay sort of as band 5 and develop up. And they had like a structured scheme to get you like earning what you would be. And the role so I didn't get that one. I was a close second. But the one I have actually got, again, that they're very much trying to do it as a development role. I think where these people have successful businesses that have run for 10 plus years, they very much want to be able to show what their style is, because they know that that's how they're going to keep their business going. So yeah, I think it's good that they can do that, and they're looking to move into more managers roles anyway. So they want to be hands off, and they don't want to be patient facing. So yeah, I think yeah, it is possible, and it's always worth an email, because yeah, these are people. Remember, if they see something they like about you, that they can make exceptions.
That's fantastic. I think that's really great as well because I always thought it was only kind of that you had that preceptorship within the NHS, but it's really good to hear that you also get that support if you go into the private sector as well. So we've come to our time and we've had so many great questions both in the chat and ahead of time. And we will be saving all these and making sure that we do get them answered for you. Some of them are more specialist, so we'll reach out to our advisors who'll be able to supply that help as well. But we have had a lot of questions about, how do you stay up to date? How do you stand out? And I really would encourage you to look at CSP student membership and also to join networks, whether that's professional to enhance your skills in one particular area or join your regional network. This can be a great way to get to know people in your region and the kind of opportunities out there. And there's loads of great events online and in person to join. And also our conference coming up in November in Wales on the 20th, 21st, 22nd of November. That's another fantastic opportunity to get out there, network, and meet people in the types of environment that you want to move into. So thank you so much again, everyone. It's been such a fantastic event and the questions have been great. And I hope that the information that we've given you is useful. And we look forward to welcoming you as new graduate members of the CSP either this year or next year. And just remember, if you're not already a student member, do sign up before the 31st of August to access all the benefits of graduate membership, which will be free for 12 months. And thanks so much again. And we really appreciate your input and good luck with the future.